Carol. Wait. Nathan Caldwell's voice cut through the soft drizzle just as Carol Larson reached the last step of the grand stone porch. The autumn rain was light but constant, misting the polished walkway in a silvery sheen. She turned sharply, her blonde ponytail now damp, her canvas bag slung over one shoulder. Her eyes, tired but steady, met his. Is something wrong, Mr. Caldwell? Nathan took a step forward, his handsome features etched with concern. Where are you going in such a hurry? You've been leaving early a lot lately. Carol's expression remained composed, but she instinctively adjusted the strap of her bag. A small, defensive gesture. I have personal matters to attend to. My shift ended at 7. Sir. I believe I'm free to go. Nathan narrowed his eyes. Not unkindly, but with a probing worry. I heard you on the phone last night. You sounded stressed. You said you needed a large sum of money. Is everything all right? For a fraction of a second, Carol froze just long enough for him to notice. That was a private conversation, she replied, her voice tight with restraint. I know it was. But you care for my son. He adores you. I just need to know if there is something I should be worried about. Carol's grip on the canvas bag tightened until her knuckles were white. If you no longer trust me, perhaps you should find someone else to watch Noah. Nathan flinched. The words stung more than they should have. Without another word, she turned and descended the stairs quickly, her boots splashing in the shallow puddles. Her figure was soon swallowed by the soft darkness beyond the front gate. The glow from the porch light flickered behind her, casting long, uncertain shadows. Inside, the mansion felt cavernous and emptier than usual. Nathan walked back into his study, poured himself a scotch he didn't really want, and stared out through the tall, rain-flecked windows. The house, a monument of glass and steel he had once built to impress, now echoed with a profound silence. He had designed it that way after his wife passed clean. Controlled. Impenetrable. A place without surprises. But Carol. She was different. Since she had started working there 6 months ago, she had brought something to the house he hadn't realized he missed. Warmth. Noah, once withdrawn and quiet since his mother's death, had opened up. He laughed again. He played. He smiled. And it was Carol who had coaxed that light back into his son's eyes. Just that morning, Nathan had watched from the hallway as Noah, still in his pajamas, tugged at Carol's hand. Can you stay tonight? He'd whispered. Just until I fall asleep. Carol had knelt, her smile soft and sincere, and tucked his stuffed rabbit into the crook of his arm. Not tonight, sweetheart, she'd said gently. But I'll be back first thing in the morning. That's a promise. Nathan had felt a strange stirring in his chest, then something quiet, something hopeful. But now, after her sudden departure and the phone call he'd overheard, her desperate words replayed in his mind. I need it soon. No. I can't ask anyone else. I am doing everything I can. No mention of a family emergency. No context. Just pure desperation. He knew what his logical mind wanted to do, protect his son at all costs. But his heart was conflicted. Carol had never been anything but kind. patient, and trustworthy. Still, secrets, especially when tied to money, rarely ended well. He had learned that painful lesson after Jennifer. After Amelia. After watching people transform the moment they realized just how much he was worth. His fingers hovered over the security panel on his desk. With a few clicks, the screen lit up, displaying footage from the day before. There was Carol, arriving right on time, brushing Noah's hair, organizing the craft drawer, reading bedtime stories on the couch. Nothing suspicious. Nothing wrong. Except for the call. She had stepped out onto the back terrace. Phone pressed close to her ear. Believing she was out of sight. She didn't see the camera's angle. "I'm trying." She'd pleaded into the phone. Her voice strained. "I said I'm trying. I just need more time. Please. Don't give up on me." Nathan muted the clip. The tone in her voice anxious. Pressure played over and over in his head. It wasn't the sound of a schemer. It was the sound of desperation. He stood abruptly. The drink forgotten. He didn't want to be this man. The one who doubted good people. The cynic who saw shadows in every corner. But if something was happening behind his back, and it put Noah in danger, he had to know. Pulling on his coat, he grabbed his keys and headed for the garage. He slid behind the wheel of his black Mercedes. The quiet hum of the engine filling the silence. Through the windshield, the rain blurred the world into streaks of light and shadow. He pulled out of the driveway slowly. Headlights off. Keeping his distance as he turned down the street in the direction Carol had gone. Maybe she was just trying to survive. Maybe she had a past she was hiding. Or maybe, just maybe, he was about to uncover a truth that would change everything he thought he knew. Tonight, he would follow her. Tonight, he would find the truth. Even if it broke the only fragile connection he had left. Nathan's black Mercedes idled 2 blocks from the mansion. Its headlights off. The engine a low thrum against the patter of the rain. He watched as Carol boarded the city bus. Her canvas bag hugged tightly to her side. She didn't look back. He followed from a careful distance. His heart pounding with a strange mix of guilt and resolve. This felt wrong. Like a betrayal. But the knot of suspicion in his gut refused to quiet. She was hiding something. He needed to know what. The bus traveled south, leaving behind Seattle's gleaming glass towers and winding into older, forgotten neighborhoods. Nathan's eyes tracked every turn, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. Finally, Carol disembarked in a neglected district defined by cracked sidewalks, flickering street lamps, and graffiti-tagged buildings. She crossed the street and stepped into a faded blue building with a crooked sign, Hope Haven Community Center. Nathan parked across the street. His engine now silent. Through the rain-speckled windows, he saw her greeted warmly by a gray-haired woman. She was then ushered into a brightly lit room filled with children. Some sat on colorful mats. Others fidgeted with crayons and paper. Carol knelt among them. Her voice lost behind the glass. But her actions speaking volumes. From her bag, she pulled out books, markers, and paper dolls. A small girl with wide, cautious eyes hesitated at first. Then slowly moved closer as Carol helped her draw a stick figure house with a garden of flowers out front. Carol's smile was gentle, patient, and utterly real. When a little boy sneezed behind her, she didn't hesitate. She pulled a hand-knit scarf from her own neck and wrapped it gently around his. Nathan blinked. It was the same scarf he had seen her working on during her lunch breaks at the mansion. She hadn't been making it for herself. He watched for nearly an hour. Mesmerized. Carol read stories aloud. Her voice animated. She crouched to meet children at eye level, adjusted the buttons on a little boy's coat, and held a crying girl in her arms until the child's sobs subsided into soft hiccups. She laughed when they laughed. She moved as if this place, this crumbling, underfunded space, was her true home. Nathan leaned back in the driver's seat, a wave of shame and admiration washing over him. She hadn't been hiding deceit. She had been hiding kindness. His eyes fell on a box of gourmet pastries on the passenger seat. Leftovers from his kitchen staff. Acting on an impulse he didn't fully understand, he scribbled a quick note, for the children. From someone who believes in them. He placed it on top of the box, crossed the street in the downpour, and quietly left it just inside the community center's door before retreating to his car. He watched through the window as Carol found the package a few minutes later. She paused, puzzled. Then a soft, slow smile spread across her face as she read the note. She read it twice, and he saw her touch her chest briefly. A gesture of pure, unadulterated gratitude. Nathan exhaled, the heavy weight of his suspicion finally lifting. The next morning, Carol arrived for work 10 minutes late. Her cheeks flushed and her hair still damp from the walk. She held the anonymous note in her hand. "Mr. Caldwell," she said carefully, standing just inside the kitchen. He was pretending to make coffee, his back to her. "Yes. Did you leave something at Hope Haven last night?" He didn't turn around. "Maybe." "Why?" He finally faced her. "Because I was wrong about you." She blinked, surprised. "You followed me?" He gave a single, solemn nod. "You thought I was stealing," she stated, her voice flat. "I did," he admitted, his own voice low with regret. "But I saw something else. You. With those kids. It was beautiful." "Carol." She looked down at the note in her hand. "They loved the pastries." "Thank you. You shouldn't have to do it alone," he said, the words coming from a place of newfound respect. "Let me help." She hesitated, her pride warring with her relief. "This isn't charity." "I know," he said, his gaze steady and sincere. "It's admiration." Their eyes met. And for the first time, something soft and unspoken passed between them. Like the delicate, fragile beginning of trust. Back in his study, Nathan sat at his desk, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the dark wood. His laptop screen displayed a modest website plain, functional, and heartfelt. Hope Haven Community Center, serving Seattle's forgotten families. He scrolled through blurry photos of volunteers, community dinners, and after-school programs. In the corner of one picture, Carol knelt beside a child holding a paper heart with "Believe in Yourself" scrolled in crayon. The website told a familiar story: funding was running out. Donations were down. And the heater had broken twice that winter. Nathan closed the browser and leaned back. A thoughtful silence filling the room. That evening, he made a few discreet calls. By midnight, a shell company he often used for anonymous philanthropy had wired $50,000 to Hope Haven's account. He slept better that night than he had in weeks. The next day, he lingered in the kitchen, waiting for her. Carol arrived in her usual quiet way. Hair tucked behind her ears. Sleeves rolled up. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," she said, setting down her bag. "Carol," he said, pretending to sip his coffee. "How's Noah doing with his letters?" She smiled. A genuine, unguarded smile. "Getting better. He writes his name backwards sometimes. But he's so proud of it." Nathan chuckled. "Sounds like his mother." Carol's smile faded slightly. But she nodded. "He talks about her. I hope you don't mind." "Of course not," he said carefully, answering his questions. "It made me wonder. What made you want to work with children?" Carol's hand stilled over the lunch she was packing. "I grew up in a group home," she said, her voice quiet. "No parents. No siblings. Just a rotating door of social workers and bunk beds." She took a soft breath. "There was one volunteer. Mrs. Gable. She came every week to read to us. She brought used paperbacks and cookies. She only stayed for a year. But I never forgot her." Nathan said nothing, afraid of breaking the rare spell of openness between them. "I promised myself if I ever got out," she continued, "I'd do the same for someone else." Just then, Noah ran into the kitchen, his socks sliding on the tile. "Miss Carol. Look. I drew us in the park." She knelt, her face lighting up as she examined the scribbled stick figures. "It's beautiful. Noah. You even remembered the slide." Nathan watched her tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, listening to the softness in her voice. She had given his son something he hadn't been able to give himself, a sense of family. That evening, after Carol left for Hope Haven, Nathan placed a small, wrapped box on the table by the door. Inside was a deluxe set of colorful building blocks. Enough for 10 children. He added a note in clean, careful handwriting, for Noah and his friends. From someone who believes in play. The next morning, Carol picked up the box with gentle fingers. "This wasn't here yesterday." Noah mentioned his friends didn't have many toys. Nathan said, feigning casualness. She narrowed her eyes, studying him for a moment. Then her expression softened. "Thank you. I'll make sure they get it." Nathan nodded, hiding the small twist of warmth in his chest. Hope. That was what she gave everyone around her. Subtly. Steadily. Without asking for anything in return. And for the first time in years, Nathan wanted to give something back. The morning light streamed softly through the tall windows of the Caldwell living room, casting golden patches across the floor where Noah sat. His coloring book spread wide. Carol knelt beside him, her voice a gentle murmur as she read aloud from a picture book about a bear who built a treehouse for his friends. Nathan leaned against the doorway, watching them from a distance. There was something soothing in the cadence of Carol's voice. Something grounding in the way Noah nestled close to her side. When the story ended, Carol closed the book and ruffled Noah's hair. "Go wash your hands before breakfast." "Okay, buddy." Noah nodded and skipped off toward the bathroom. Nathan stepped forward. "You're really good with him." Carol looked up, surprised. "Thank you." He hesitated. "Can I ask you something personal?" She tensed slightly. "I suppose. Last week, when I followed you," he stopped, unsure how to phrase it without sounding accusatory all over again. "I saw what you were doing at the community center. But I still don't understand. Why keep it a secret?" Carol exhaled slowly. "Because people don't always see good intentions. They see distractions. A lack of professionalism. I worried you'd think I wasn't dedicated enough to this job." "I don't," Nathan said quietly. "I think what you're doing is remarkable." She sat on the edge of the couch, curling her hands in her lap. "There's a girl there. Lily. She's 9. Lost both parents in a fire last year. She doesn't talk much. Won't meet anyone's eyes. The therapists at Hope Haven said she needs regular sessions. Maybe medication. But we don't have the funds." Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "I've been working weekends at a bookstore, trying to cover the cost for one session a week. That's why I've left early a few times. Not because I don't care about Noah." He sat down in the armchair across from her. "I never should have doubted that." She offered a faint, sad smile. I've never had much. Grew up counting coins for milk. People assume you're lazy or irresponsible if you come from nothing. I've worked so hard to build trust in this role. I didn't want to jeopardize that." Nathan's throat tightened. "I understand." She glanced up, a question in her eyes. "Do you?" He nodded, the confession feeling heavy in the air. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer. It was quick and cruel. After that, I stopped letting people in. Everyone wanted something: money, access, influence. I became someone who checked security footage instead of just asking questions. I was scared to trust anyone again." Carol's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "That kind of loss. I can't imagine." "I think," he said, his voice low, "we're both a little afraid of being hurt. Of being truly seen." She gave a shaky laugh. "You'd think helping others would make us feel braver. But it doesn't always make us feel safe." Silence settled between them, comfortable and profound. Then, quietly, Carol spoke the fear that lived in her heart. "Sometimes I wonder if someone like me with my past can ever be truly loved." The words twisted in Nathan's chest. "You deserve more than love," he said, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't name. "You deserve safety, belief, and respect." Her shoulders trembled slightly. "You don't know how much I needed to hear that." He didn't reach for her hand. He didn't dare break the fragile truce they had just formed. But in that moment, something shifted. An understanding. A thread of genuine trust, woven from shared vulnerability. That afternoon, Nathan made a call to a private therapy network he knew. He arranged, through an affiliated nonprofit, to sponsor Lily's treatment weekly sessions with a top trauma specialist. Fully covered. No name attached. The next time Carol came home from Hope Haven, her eyes were red-rimmed but shining with joy. The therapist called. She announced. Her voice filled with wonder. They said they received an anonymous grant for Lilia, full scholarship for her treatment. I don't know who arranged it. But. He smiled. Sometimes good things find their way to good people. Neither of them said anything more. But they both felt it, the quiet healing that comes not from grand gestures, but from finally, truly being seen. The early morning air inside the Caldwell estate felt heavier than usual. Like a storm that never quite came but still left everything damp and unsettled. Carol moved quietly through the kitchen, preparing Noah's breakfast. Her motions practiced and precise. Across the marble island, Nathan watched her, the coffee cooling in his hand. He cleared his throat. Carol. I've been thinking. She looked up briefly. Yes. Mr. Caldwell. Nathan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I want to offer you a new position. A full-time household manager. Higher pay. Flexible hours. It would give you time for your studies and to continue your work at Hope Haven. Carol froze, her hand pausing mid-reach for the toaster. He continued gently. You've done so much for Noah. For me. I want to support what you're doing, the social work. The center. You should have the space to pursue those dreams without burning yourself out. For a moment, Carol said nothing. Then she placed the bread in the toaster and turned away, her back to him. I appreciate the offer. Truly. But I have to decline. Nathan's brow furrowed. Why? Because I need to do this on my own. She replied, her voice muffled. If I accept your help, if I become dependent on your generosity, I don't know if I'll ever stop feeling small. Small? He echoed, confused. Like I don't deserve where I am. She said quietly. Like it's all charity instead of merit. Nathan's heart sank. Carol. That's not how I see you at all. But it's how I see myself. She whispered. From that day forward, an invisible wall rose between them. Carol remained professional, punctual, and polite. But she was distant. She no longer lingered to read with Noah after her shift. The casual morning chats vanished. Her answers became brief. Her smiles faint and fleeting. Nathan felt the void like a cold wind through a broken window. He tried to reach her. How's Lily doing? He asked one afternoon. She's improving, Carol said without looking up from the dishes. And your classes? Fine. It was like speaking through glass. He told himself to let it go. To respect her boundaries. But at night, the house echoed with a loneliness that was now more profound than before. Noah missed her stories. Nathan missed her laughter. The spark that had once quietly bloomed between them had been extinguished. And he didn't know how to reignite it. Was it his wealth? Her pride? Or was it something deeper, her fear of needing anyone? And his fear of being needed? Weeks passed in the slow, aching rhythm of an unspoken goodbye. Then one Wednesday morning, Carol stepped into his study. I need to talk to you, she said, clutching a folder to her chest. Nathan rose slowly. Of course. I'm giving my notice. The words landed like a physical blow. I've been accepted into a part-time university program in social work. And Hope Haven needs more of me now that we're expanding services. It's time. He swallowed hard. You're leaving. I'll stay 2 more weeks to train a replacement. She added quickly. Noah deserves a smooth transition. Nathan nodded, though his hands trembled slightly. I see. She hesitated. I'm grateful for everything. Mr. Caldwell. You've been more generous than I ever expected. He managed a tight smile. I only ever wanted what's best for you. Carol. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say more. But she didn't. She turned and walked out, leaving him staring at the empty doorway. That night, Nathan sat at his desk long after the house had gone quiet. He pulled out a piece of heavy, cream-colored stationery and began to write. His handwriting slow and deliberate. To whom it may concern. He began. It was a letter of recommendation, eloquent, glowing, and deeply honest. He spoke of Carol's dedication, her integrity, her profound impact on a grieving child and a broken home. He sealed the envelope and slid it into a second one, addressed to a scholarship committee at a prestigious foundation. Inside, he included a short, anonymous note. Her past should not define her future. She is the kind of person the world needs more of. Help her get there. She deserves every dream she dares to chase. He didn't sign it. 2 days later, Carol received the scholarship award letter in her mailbox at Hope Haven. She stared at it in disbelief. A full-ride scholarship that would cover her entire degree. Then she noticed the enclosed recommendation. As she read the powerful words, her name written in looping, familiar ink, she knew. There was no signature. But there didn't need to be. She pressed the paper to her chest, her eyes closing, her heart full and breaking all at once. He was letting her go, respecting her choice, supporting her dreams from a distance. And in that selfless act, he made her question everything she thought she knew about strength, love, and what it truly meant to be seen. The autumn sun filtered gently through the thinning leaves, casting golden patches of light across the park benches and playground adjacent to Hope Haven. Nathan spotted Carol near the community garden. Her blonde ponytail caught the breeze as she knelt beside Lily, guiding the little girl's hand across the page of a picture book. Other children buzzed around them, their laughter a joyful soundtrack to the afternoon. But Carol remained an island of calm, her soft voice grounding the moment. He approached slowly, feeling like an intruder in this world she had built. She looked up just as he reached the edge of the playground. Nathan, she said, her voice a mix of surprise and something else he couldn't quite read. I hope I'm not intruding, he said, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Carol stood, brushing leaves from her jeans. You're always welcome here. This park belongs to everyone. I needed to see you, Nathan admitted. To say something I should have said a long time ago. She gestured toward a nearby bench. And they sat, a comfortable distance between them. Lily waved goodbye and ran off to join a group near the swings. I followed you that first night, Nathan began, the confession tasting like rust in his mouth. The night you left early with the canvas bag. Carol's shoulders tensed. But she said nothing. I thought you were hiding something, He continued, forcing himself to be honest. I had all these suspicions. I've seen people take advantage before. People I trusted. I was afraid. She didn't look at him. Only nodded slowly. Her gaze fixed on the laughing children. But then I saw you here. With them. He said. His voice softening. And it changed me. You taught me more about kindness in one night than I've learned in 35 years. Carol's eyes shimmered. I knew you didn't trust me. I felt it. And I hated that I cared. Why didn't you ever just tell me the truth? He asked, turning to her fully. Because I was afraid. Too. She whispered. Afraid you'd see me as a charity case. A poor girl with a tragic story. I didn't want your pity. I didn't want to be another one of your projects. You never were. He said fiercely. I grew up being told I wasn't enough. She continued. The words tumbling out. My shoes were too worn. My lunches too simple. My dreams too big. Kids laughed at me. Teachers pitied me. I told myself I would never let anyone define me by what I lacked. Nathan exhaled slowly. I know what it's like to build walls. He looked down at his own hands. The weight of memories tugging at his voice. After my wife died. Everything collapsed. I couldn't protect her. I couldn't protect Noah from the grief. So I closed up. Locked the gates. And shut out the world. I thought safety meant solitude. His gaze met hers. Then I watched you bring life back to this house. You gave Noah his laughter again. You gave me hope. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. Carol gasped. Her hand instinctively flying to her mouth. But I was too afraid to admit it. He added. Because I thought you'd never want someone like me. Broken. Wealthy. Yes. But empty. Damaged. A single tear slipped down Carol's cheek. You think I'm not afraid? She whispered. Her voice trembling. You think I haven't fallen in love with you too? And told myself every single day that it was impossible. Nathan reached for her hand. Hesitated for a heartbeat. Then took it gently in his. Then why are we letting fear win? She blinked away her tears. Because love like this feels too big. Too risky. He squeezed her hand. His touch warm and certain. But it's real. Isn't it? Carol nodded slowly. Her eyes locked on his. Yes. She breathed. It's real. They sat in silence for a long moment. Their hands entwined. The laughter of children ringing around them like music. For the first time. The distance between them wasn't a chasm. It was a bridge. Nathan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. I've been keeping this, he said, handing it to her. I started writing down all the things you said to Noah. Your words when he was scared. When he missed his mom. When he doubted himself. Carol opened the notebook slowly. Inside. In Nathan's neat, strong handwriting. Were dozens of quotes. You're stronger than you think. Being kind is the bravest thing you can be. No storm lasts forever. On the final page. One last sentence stood alone, you are my inspiration. Carol clutched the book to her chest. Tears of joy and relief spilling freely now. I don't know what the future holds, Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. But I know this. I don't want to face it without you. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Me neither. And for the first time in a very long time, neither of them felt afraid. The grand ballroom of the city's most elegant hotel shimmered with crystal chandeliers and soft, golden light for the first ever Hope Haven Gala. Tables draped in white linen were surrounded by well-dressed guests, community leaders, donors, and the parents and children whose lives had been touched by the center. At the far end of the room, Carol stood behind a podium on a raised stage, her blonde hair softly framing her face. She wore a deep blue dress, simple yet elegant, and her eyes scanned the room filled with so many familiar faces. Her heart thumped in her chest. Good evening, everyone, she began, her voice remarkably steady. A hush fell over the crowd. I stand here tonight because of Hope Haven, and because of the extraordinary people who believe in its mission. But there's someone here who changed everything for me. And for this center. She paused, and a faint murmur rippled through the audience. Carol took a breath. A few months ago, a series of anonymous gifts gave us the hope we needed to keep our doors open. They came from someone who believed in us when we were struggling to believe in ourselves. Nathan sat at a table near the front, his heart pounding. He saw the way the audience looked around. Curious. This person's generosity didn't just save a community center. Carol continued, her voice filled with emotion. It saved me. It reminded me that my past does not have to define my future. And that kindness is a language everyone understands. Applause swelled as she stepped away from the podium, her eyes searching for his. She saw Nathan rising slowly from his seat, his own eyes bright. Just then, the gala's MC stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one final surprise. Please welcome the man behind that generosity, Mr. Nathan Caldwell, to the stage. The applause grew louder as Nathan crossed the room and stepped onto the stage. Good evening, he began, his voice carrying through the room with warmth and sincerity. I am humbled to stand here tonight to finally say what I should have said a long time ago. A few months back, I anonymously supported Hope Haven because I met a woman who embodies everything it stands for: compassion, resilience, and unconditional love. Her name is Carol Larson. Carol's hand flew to her mouth as the crowd turned to her, their applause now thunderous. I watched her pour her heart into children who needed more than just help. Nathan went on, his gaze locked with hers. They needed hope. And I realized how wrong I was to ever doubt her. I was wrong to think her story was anything but beautiful. He paused, his voice thickening. Carol, I'm sorry for not trusting you sooner. I fell in love with your kindness long before I understood it. I love you. And I want to say it publicly. Because you deserve to be seen for the incredible woman you truly are. Silence held the room for a beat. Then the audience burst into a standing ovation. Nathan offered his hand to Carol, and she stepped forward, her heart soaring. As she reached his side, a small figure darted out from the wings of the stage. It was Noah. He waddled up and wrapped his arms tightly around Carol's legs. Mommy, he called out, his voice clear and loud in the sudden quiet. A collective gasp went through the room. Carol knelt to embrace him, Tears of overwhelming joy streaming down her face as Nathan wrapped his arm around both of them, pulling them into a circle of love. "They are my heart," Nathan said to the captivated audience. "And they are my family." More applause and soft gasps filled the room. Carol rose, looked out at the sea of smiling faces, and then locked eyes with Nathan. "My family," she whispered back. Then, to her utter shock, Nathan reached into his jacket, withdrew a small velvet box, and knelt on one knee right there on the stage. "Carol Larson," he said, his voice shaking just slightly. "Will you make me the happiest man alive? Will you marry me? And will you let Noah and me build a life of trust, love, and purpose with you?" The room erupted in cheers. Through her tears, Carol nodded vigorously. "Yes. Oh. Yes." He opened the box to reveal a delicate, sparkling ring. He smiled up at her as he slipped it onto her finger, then rose to his feet. They shared a gentle, heartfelt kiss as cameras flashed and the room roared with joy. "Before we lose the moment," Nathan announced, stepping back to the podium, "I want to announce the official establishment of the Carol Larson Scholarship Fund, in honor of her dedication to education and children. This fund will support orphaned and low-income students in pursuing their college dreams. Because everyone deserves hope." The crowd erupted anew. Carol covered her mouth, stunned into happy silence. Nathan swept her into a warm hug. He had come to give her everything he could: love, trust, and respect. And now, her name would be a beacon of hope for countless others. With Noah tucked securely between them, the new family stood together, soaking in a love that was strong enough to heal any wound and bright enough to light up the world. 1 year later, the sun dipped low over the Pacific, casting a trail of shimmering gold across the waves. The breeze was soft and gentle, tugging lightly at Carol's long blonde hair as she walked barefoot along the beach, hand in hand with Nathan. Just ahead, Noah, now a confident 5-year-old, skipped along the shoreline, his laughter as bright and pure as the evening air. Life had settled into a beautiful, steady rhythm. The Carol Larson Scholarship Fund had sent its first 3 students to college. Hope Haven, with Carol at its helm, was a thriving sanctuary of learning and love. And their house, once a silent mansion, was now a home, filled with the sounds of play, the smell of cookies baking, and the quiet murmur of bedtime stories. Nathan paused, turning to his wife. His eyes, once shadowed with suspicion, now held only a deep and abiding love. "Happy anniversary," he said softly. "Happy anniversary." She smiled back, her heart full. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small, familiar-looking velvet box from his pocket. She laughed. "Another one?" He opened it to reveal a simple, elegant band. Engraved on its surface was a single, tiny, perfect star. "A star," she whispered, her eyes welling with tears. "For hope," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "For the light you brought into our lives. For the North Star you'll always be for me and Noah." He slid the ring onto her finger, next to her engagement ring and wedding band. She looked at the 3 rings, nestled together. Trust. Family. And hope. She said. Everything that matters. Noah ran back to them. His face beaming. Look! He shouted. Pointing to the wet sand. He had drawn 3 stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. Above them. In uneven letters. He had written, "My family." Nathan wrapped an arm around Carol, pulling her close as they looked at their son's masterpiece. "I was so afraid once," he murmured into her hair. "Afraid to trust. To feel. But you were worth every leap of faith." She leaned her head against his shoulder, watching the last sliver of sun disappear below the horizon. "So were you," she whispered. "And so was this." They stood that way for a long time. A family forged not by blood, but by courage, kindness, and a love that had turned a millionaire's mansion into a home, and a nanny's quiet hope into a legacy that would shine for years to come. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey. If you believe that kindness can change a life and that genuine love can heal even the deepest wounds, then you are in the right place. Make sure to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more emotional, inspiring, and soul-lifting tales crafted especially for you. And if this story moved you, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your feelings are what fuel us to keep sharing stories that matter. Soul-Stirring Stories, where hearts connect.